Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FM show. On this week's episode, Tactics. We show you how to set up for day one. Whether it's a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, or maybe something a little bit more avant-garde, we've got you covered. And we'll even throw in some advice as to what to do if or when it all goes wrong. So, let's get started. Welcome to the FM show. I am Tony Jamesons, and joining me as always is RDF Tactics and producer Steve. Aaron, Steve, how are we? Aaron, I'm going to come to you first. Is RDF better than it was last week?
RDF is a lot better. We are building a nation and it's coming along nicely. We're building a nation on Twitch, so you can come over if you want to. And yeah, we're in season 5, group stages. The money's rolling in now, so the save is really starting to kick off.
Fantastic. And are all the players still registered at the club? You haven't, just left people outside stadiums, forced P45s on them because they gave a throw-in away?
I mean, some of you may have seen it on Twitter. Where in one window, we got 17 players in. We've smashed that record. And what we're trying to do is obviously just trying to loan them, get them in, and then loan them out to other Romanian clubs. Sometimes they do go. Sometimes they just kind of just hang around. They just hang around. Hang around is what we're doing.
Yeah, and obviously that's a build a nation is what you're doing. That's the sort of the style of the save, and it's obviously one of those well-known challenges. Again, we will be touching upon different styles of challenges to play as the podcast develops. But can you very, very quickly, just for people that maybe don't know what a build a nation save is, explain how you go about that?
I'm learning. I'm learning on the job. So, so we've obviously picked a team with not a high reputation. Competition reputation. We're just trying to build that so it becomes one of the recognizable leagues in Europe, but also trying to raise the coefficients as well in Romania.
Excellent. So ultimately, the plan of the save is to make Romania the top team, so win the World Cup or Euros or something, and also to raise the Romanian league itself up to be the top league in Europe, isn't it? And obviously, develop those wonder kids.
Exactly that. My favorite thing.
Lovely. So that's building a nation, Romania. Steve, building a lovely river
Dynasty.
in Florence.
Dynasty.
Yeah. Still in Florence?
Yes. Yeah. Just didn't really. Maybe in a few weeks' time, but now's not the time to mix things up. Really, you got to sometimes if it's ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
One final thing I would say in terms of Aaron, where can people see all of the stuff that you just spoke about?
Twitch.tv/RDF Tactics.
And if they want to see some of your YouTube videos as well?
Yep, youtube.com/RDF Tactics as well. This is where you can find some of the tactics stuff. And yeah, we're going to be talking about tactics today as well.
Lovely. The difference in the new era for those listening and watching will be that in the old era, I could have said this to RDF without me being seen or heard. It's a bit more difficult now. So basically, you have to produce in front of your eyes. So it's a lot more like peel the curtain back. So
exactly. Yeah.
I have told him like 5 times. So we're on episode 5. Every single episode, I said, Aaron, after this little bit where you catch people up, remember,
there's that sort of thing in it. You want people to know about your channel, but at the same time, you don't want to keep pushing it. And like, you get to a point like, am I actually putting people off going to the channel? But yeah, I do get it, though. I do get it.
And it's that humility, which is why people like you so much. But you should also just.
I'm sorry.
So there we go. Anyway,
everything RDF Tactics, Google.
Anyway, so yes, to go back to. Bit of on-air production aside, to go back to your question, Tony, Florence is lovely. Last week we were speaking about how the sort of improvement in set pieces, defensively and offensively, delivery, etc., had borne results. That's remained true. I'm falling in love a lot more with Lorenzo Luca every passing game because it's just like I'm a lock picker, and I previously didn't have a tool to get into certain games and situations. And now it's just like, oh, Lorenzo. And he's also better on the ground than I think necessarily I was expecting too. So he can
Don't say
still
the
contribute.
cliche.
in
Don't
terms
say
of
the
his-
cliche. Don't say the cliche.
He's got nice feet for a nice touch. I can't remember what it is. Yeah.
Lorenzo Luca
Anyway,
is not a lock picker. He is a sledgehammer. That's what he is.
but yeah, so that's going nicely. But one learning that I did have this week was I was winning a very tight game against Roma. Got a goal in the sort of 70th minute. Did one of those moments where you make two subs. In this case, it was Mohamed Kudus and Dejan Kulusevski who I brought on. Kulusevski sets up Kudus for the goal, opening goal, and I was like, come on, guys. And you feel great, you feel vindicated. But I left my mentality on attacking because I was thinking like Roma are the sort of side that if you keep attacking it and you pull apart, it's better to score, try and score again, to attack to defend, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there was right to the end, and this was my mistake because 93rd minute counter attack, Roma score, header at the far post, fuming. We'd controlled the game so well until that point, and got the goal. Lesson being, go for your spithousery, or at least drop it down to balance, cautious, whatever. Do the sort of put your passing into conservative rather than to higher risk. Just do in those moments sometimes. Yeah, I should have just got dropped off because I lost 2 big points in the race for Scudetto. So, yeah, it's been overall. It's been good because we also had a big breakthrough in the Champions League. Beat PSG 4-1. Temio Frankie again. Those set pieces, that counter-attacking, the sort of switching we've spoken about in the past few episodes, helping me out just to get through. And so, I might have cracked the Champions League. We'll see though, very early doors. But yeah, always things to learn in this game, and I certainly have learned a couple of things this week.
There's, of course, that little button on the tactics as well, which is click be more disciplined as well. That's always a nice little one to click on there. So
I've got an issue.
Sorry,
Aaron, I was gonna say I've got an issue. I just don't learn. I just so there's like Steve said, the attacking mentality. But my thing's not actually the mentality; is the set pieces. So for me, it's just like yes, the game 1-0, and my tactic is already on balance, so my players shouldn't be running forward anyway. But it's the set piece, and obviously we play for set pieces, and that's our strength. So attacking and corners, I've got a load of players forward, the centre backs are forward, and the same things happen a few occasions now where I've got that 1 goal lead, and it's at the 93rd minute, the highlight loads up, we're taking a throw in, and I've just noticed I've only got 2 players back, so I've just covered my face, and then my player just throws it to them, they just go to counter attack, and it's happened a few times. And it's that sort of thing where you're fuming, but it's really your fault. It's really my fault. And I should learn from it. And really what you can do as well in the game is you can actually make a set piece routine, save it. So when you are in that sort of bother in the 93rd minute, you can literally just go into your tactics, load up the one, and everyone's back in your set pieces. But Mr. RDF thinks he knows everything.
Well, I need to say, Aaron, I came very, very close to having an RDF moment this week. Now, you're not the only one, of course, who streams on the podcast. I'm also streaming over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Tony Jamesons FM, if you're interested. Doing what's called the British Steel Challenge. The idea being able to try and win everything in England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. So I'm sort of jet-setting around the British Isles, having a great little time. Fell out with Leeds United. I've mentioned that I was managing Leeds last week. The board started skimming bits of transfer budget off me, right?
Yeah.
When you sort of, and it says on the screen where it says the amount of transfer revenue retained, it was 100%, okay? But we noticed this when I first was there for the first season. They went, right, okay, sell a lot of players, that's fine. And then after about selling maybe 6 players, they started going, right, £30 million transfer fee, you can have 25. £20 million, you can have 10. I'm like, right, and I sort of let it slide for the first season. Second season comes in January, right? We'd made the Champions League, so we'd overachieved. January, I was like, right, we need a couple of players. We're a little bit weak in midfield. I need to get a proper midfield destroyer in here. And I was eyeing a few players up. I need to raise a bit more cash. I only had 20 million quid or something, right? And offered out a couple of players. £30 million was basically said, look, you can have 22 million, and then one was 24 million down to 8 million. And I was like, something's not right here. Something's not right. And of course, it's Premier League, so of course the club are in debt. Okay, so I'll take that. But on the eve of the January transfer window, I was offering these players out. The day ticks over to January the 1st. the board reduced my transfer budget from £20 million to £670,000
On transfer deadline day.
at the start of the transfer window, as if to, like, basically what had happened was their New Year's Eve had went terrible, and they woke up the following morning with a lot less money in the bank account than they thought they had, right? And that was a knock-on effect for me. And I'm sitting going, oh, so we're bringing no one in, are we? And as we're doing this on stream, my chat went off it. They were like, we've got to go. We've got to leave now.
Yeah.
And so we did. We threw our toys out the pram. We left. I returned home to Sunderland because things are inevitable. Got to Sunderland, and I had the moment with Aaron, which is where I'm getting a bit angry. I had 2 offside goals that were clearly offside given against me. And I was apoplectic, Aaron.
Man, so I've had a couple of decisions in the stream as well, and it's like there's actually VAR in the thing, and it's like the VAR just doesn't even go to VAR. We're like, what is happening? But it kind of makes a great story at the end of the season, especially when you win the league as well, and you kind of remember those moments, and you go back and you see those moments. But yeah, we've had those moments as well. There's VAR, and it doesn't go to VAR.
I've just noticed, Tony, looking at based on your story, mine's at 25% of chance of revenue made available. 25,
really?
Wow.
You're getting nothing.
nothing.
You need to click. So this is the thing then for everyone who's listening in, okay, or watching on YouTube. You go to it's on the financials screen, okay?
Yeah.
Go to the financials and then click above where it gives you the transfer budget. In the small print, okay? In the small print, it says percentage of transfer revenue made available. So that means that whenever you sell a player, you may get 100%. Some clubs do that. You may get 90%. Steve's getting 25%. And then under that, it has the minimum guarantee of what your transfer budget is going to be for the following season. So when we talked about transfers the other episode, and we said about spreading payments, remember that does impact you in the future. So it's one to keep an eye on, because you might well fall foul of the board who start to pull that rug from under your feet.
Because we said in the previous episode, right, that the new owners came in and sort of, was sort of like slightly more financially restrictive. That hasn't fully gone away, as we can see. Next season's minimum guaranteed budget, 10 million. I can't win a Scudetto with that.
Wow.
Not at all.
I'm selling Angelo for £97 million. Like, how does that work?
And you're seeing 25 million quid of that. That's someone's making money, Steve, and it ain't you. So maybe Steve's going to leave Florence. Ooh, no. And just before we move on, just to sound the narrative klaxon as well, Aaron.
Yeah.
My first match in charge of Sunderland was Peterborough, who, if you've ever watched my streams before, I was Peterborough on FM 21. Yeah. My last match of the season, away to Leeds.
Oh,
there you go. That could be a match that potentially has some something riding on it. So there you go. So we've got that. So yeah. So feel free to have a watch of myself and Aaron over on Twitch. We've mentioned obviously previous episodes. Last episode we looked about how to instill philosophies at your new club, obviously interspersed with several references to 80s music. So hope you all enjoyed those ones. And we also had some lovely comments from listeners about the shows so far. This one in particular made me sit up and take a bit of notice. Steve, have you changed your name on the internet, by the way? Because we saw this on YouTube from a Steve Burton. Okay? Steve Burton says, every time on every pod that producer Steve starts talking, I want to start a Fiorentina save. Think that'll be my FM24 starting point. I can just see his teams and philosophy as real. So
you cannot prove that Steve Burton is not me. Okay? There is no... I just think that, you start talking about the allure of La Viola is just quite enticing, I think, really, isn't it? The lovely purple shirts, the history of players like Batistuta and Rui Costa and all those sort of people, Federico Chiesa in more recent years. Right now we're recording this in August when you guys will be first watching it, and it's the sort of hottest month in Florence. It's a city of culture, one of the sort of cornerstones of the Renaissance of the sort of, a couple of centuries ago. Incredible food, incredible beverages, if that's the sort of thing it's a wonderful place to go in your mind's eye, as well as look, it's not my fault it's an appealing safe. It's not my fault. So Steve Burton, definitely a separate person. And also, if I was going to do an online pseudonym, I wouldn't use my same name, would I?
That's what you want us to think.
Exactly.
Or would I?
Exactly. It's like the other day, someone popped in the chat and there's like RDF Tactics. I was just, but it just felt like they were talking as like they were me as well. Like, because I've discovered this. I've got a habit of just saying bro to my players in game. Bro. But he was like commenting, is like saying things in the chat, ending it with bro.
RDF Tic Tac. Only 2 calories per tic.
We also got a message from David Bell as well, who is a new viewer. So welcome to the party. Love the show, lads. Found it and smashed the first few episodes of the new series. So thank you for your lovely comments on YouTube. And I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to leave a like, and also you can leave a little comment, and maybe or hopefully your message gets read out in the show.
And what else can they do, Aaron? If they're on YouTube, what else can they do? Don't know why the pen signified this, but the pen, you know, I'm writing a signature, which means that I am.
Come in.
You can subscribe to the
subscribe.
YouTube
Yeah, because you had the pen. I was like, that's You can also subscribe.
Finding my subscription.
Apparently, which one of us has made our name on YouTube? It ain't me or Steve, is it? Let's be honest.
The pen just threw me off. The pen. I was like, pen. I was trying to work quickly for pen. Because in my head it was like subscribe. I just forgot subscribe. But then he said pen. I was like,
Sorry, to be fair, that did absolutely throw you. I was thinking like, I'm not even sure. A kid of the 90s, physically subscribed to like a magazine or something. That was still tight. But anyway, yes, 50,000 subscribers Aaron's got on his YouTube channel, just as a side note.
Yes.
And he doesn't know how.
Yeah, somehow they all use pens.
In addition, of course, to YouTube, you can find us all over the place. One little thing, by the way, if you listen to the podcast on Spotify, now I don't know if you've noticed this, I've put a little poll at the end of each episode. It's sort of a little Easter egg you can have on there, which is quite a nice little feature, just for a bit of fun, to be honest, to get a bit of interaction. Last week, obviously, we were talking about philosophies. We asked you about your own philosophy at your clubs and how you see your clubs turning out. Unsurprisingly, I would say most of you are fans of a possession-based system. So 42.9%, Steve and Aaron, preferred a controlled possession philosophy, which is pretty good, to be honest. 14.3% of you are fans of counter-attacking football. 28.6% have gone for what I lovingly refer to as murder ball, which I guess is sort of all gung-ho, try and just like see what happens. But sadly, for me at least, nobody, a big, large, round 0% are fans of getting the tractors out and referring to what I'd like to say as the agricultural style of football, which kick it hard and kick it far. That's where I am. So, Aaron, does that surprise you?
Not really. I don't know. Because when they get the tractors out football, to some people, maybe they're thinking it's actually a lot more riskier than some of the other things like control possession, murder balls. Or for me, it's certainly when it comes to playing more direct, that's for me. I'm like, okay, now this is getting risky because the ball could just keep coming back. And I'm guessing other people like to gain some sort of control. That doesn't necessarily mean possession, but they just like to have some sort of control within the game. Maybe that's part of the reason why. That would be one of the reasons for me anyway.
I think so. Control, producer Steve. Familiar with that concept?
Murder. Yeah, do you know what though? Control, possession, and tiki-taka, they're sort of cousins, aren't they? So there's clearly a sort of and I would say in a similar way too, that sort of the whole get the tractors out agricultural thing would have a sort of cousin in murder ball, and there's a bit more physical side of the game too. So it's interesting to see that our listeners philosophically, we were speaking about philosophy in the last episode, of course, are sort of spreading, roughly speaking, splitting into two camps sort of thing. Because also counter-attack, there's arguably more in common with a more physical game if you're a counter-attacking team too. It is more spread than I thought it would be.
It genuinely is, yeah.
But as with everything, it's nuanced, isn't it? So, as you say, counter-attack it can be nice, speedy, fluid counter-attacks, or it can be, he's going to kick it really far. Run. Which, to be fair, I am a fan of. So, obviously, got to say thank you as always for all your lovely comments. If you want to get in touch, you can find us on all the social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's the FM Show Pod, if you wish to find us there. Of course, we've got the Discord server. The link is in the description below. You can write Aaron a letter using a pen. We'll give out his address later. Or
we won't, to be clear, we won't do that.
We won't. You can send us an email, which is like a letter. You can send that to the FM Show Pod. That's the FM Show Pod at gmail.com. And of course, we can have a read about there. Remember, of course, to redirect all your podcast feeds to the FM Show Pod as well. And if that's not enough, gentlemen, you can also support the podcast, if you can afford to, via Patreon, where you can sign up to become a member of the FM Show team, which gives you exclusive bonus content, early access to the public episodes, both audio and video. There's a private Discord channel as well, amongst other things, all from as little as £3 per month. To sign up, visit patreon.com/the FM Show Pod and become a member, just like Steve Tozen and Kyle Gavin did this weekend. Appreciate you both. Welcome to the squad. You have joined our patrons. We've got a live show coming up on Monday, the 6th of November in Nottingham at the Canal House. It's part of the Nottingham Comedy Festival. If you're interested in coming to see the FM show live, seeing myself, seeing producer Steve, seeing RDF Tactics in person, then there's a ticket link in the description below. The tickets are priced at £5. Come and see the show. Come and hang out afterwards. We'll do a bit of a meet and greet. We'll do a bit of a chat. We'll talk FM. Bring your stories. Bring Matt Doherty if you can. But yeah, Monday the 6th of November, the Canal House in Nottingham, £5. Ticket link in the description below. Get your tickets. Come and hang out. It's going to be fantastic.
And to be clear, that Steve is also not me.
I mean, yeah. Again, we can't confirm this, but possibly.
Lack of trust. How many?
Look, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, look, right. We'll move on. Okay. Last week we talked philosophy. Okay. This week, it's Aaron's week. We're going to start talking tactics.
Oh, I'm ready for this. Is this the introduction to what I think it is?
And what do you think it might be, Aaron?
The garage where you guys send your tactics in?
The garage.
Yes.
The tactics garage. It's had a respray. The signs are out. It looks all shiny and new. The doors are about to swing open, Aaron. You've got to be ready for this, right?
Oh, definitely ready. Definitely ready.
Garage as well, so it's gone up in the world, has it, since last time?
Well, trying to appeal to a wider demographic now, Steve.
Body working shop.
Yeah. Now, before we let the coiled spring of RDF Tactics go, we should probably talk a little bit about tactical styles or systems, Steve, you've been using in Florence. Now, question I'm going to ask first of all is, are you still using the same setup 8 years in as you did on day one, or has that changed?
I was about to say, can you imagine if I hadn't grown at all in the 8 seasons and just sort of stuck with the same thing? But I'm just sort of, it's situation dependent, really, isn't it? So I have evolved. My approach was, back when I started on this save, was getting the most out of the players that I had in front of me. So I didn't initially change too much. So that was a 4-2-3-1. I did go, as you go, obviously, when you choose a tactic for your side, in the tactics section, you choose your tactical style. So I did want to do a tiki-taka from the very beginning. I wanted to be slightly more verticality than control possession was going to give me. So that's why I went specifically for tiki-taka. And I haven't actually changed from that tactical style since yet. 4-2-3-1, because to be honest with you, when I was rejoining the Football Manager world, which I did in 2021, I was moving away from playing. I played a lot more FIFA, and in FIFA, I played a 4-2-3-1, worked perfectly for me. I found after 6 months of Fiorentina, despite having the double pivot midfield with Lucas Torreira in there, who I've spoken about before, the midfield was getting passed through completely, and I was both good offensively but not converting as much. So I hadn't yet fully learnt about chance conversion. And I do some Vlahovic earlier on, so he developed more and more. But he would miss a lot of chances. Also very weak defensively. So halfway through, I was like, what's going on here? You know, we're 7th or 8th in the table.
Yeah.
I might lose my job.
Mm-hmm.
This could be over. How can I change it? So I started playing around. Data Hub helped me as well a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went for a 4-3-3. 4-3-3
Mm.
specifically, and I think this might be something that comes up in what you say as well, Tony, generally speaking, and that listeners and viewers may find too, is that there are certain keystone positions, I think, for certain tactics.
Yeah.
And for me, the 4-3-3 had the ball-winning midfielder, Lucas Torreira specifically, as that keystone position and role. So I switched about in the January window. What's quite good about Italy as well, as like the Bundesliga is the same as is La Liga, is the winter breaks, because they give you a chance, the players that will physically reset and rest, and you a chance to sort of go, okay, it's like a mid-season like analysis setup once the relentless pace of the games have gone. So made that tweak and it worked. Lucas Torreira was sweeping right in front of the back four, really solidified us in that crucial thing. We were quite vulnerable on the counter, for example, then. Because it then also meant that one of my other midfielders was a bit further up, made us a bit better in possession in terms of getting an attacking thing. We did chance conversion, we improved. So 4-3-3 is how I've had it pretty much up until halfway through season 1 through to sort of season 5/6. Within that, though, again, cornerstone position is important. I have changed it. So when I bought Ivan Ilic, a far more technical player, changed that to the deep line playmaker in that role, which unfortunately did then mean that Lucas Torreira was phased out of the team over time. And then I also there was a period of time where my right wing back was very important for me in terms of getting up, essentially almost being another midfielder in possession. So I had Alvaro Odriozola, who IRL was at Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, was on loan at Fiorentina at this point. Not sure where he is now, actually. Should we have a quick Google? Should we have a quick look to see IRL? Because I mean, this is the sort of stuff that I certainly very much enjoy because he was incredible for me. And I don't really understand why he's not worked in real life. It looks like he's actually currently back at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
So he'll be part of the squad and we'll see beyond that. So in the summer between my 5th and 6th season, I bought Benjamin Sesko.
Oof.
Alongside Duvan Zapata, it meant I had 2 big old boys. First choice, you can't really leave these guys out, strikers. Doesn't work in a 4-3-3 because neither of them can play out wide. They don't have that versatility, even though they've got many other great traits. So, around this time as well, IRL, Guardiola started inverting wingbacks. So I was thinking, how am I going to get, I've got my 2 strikers up front, and I was finding in Serie A by this point, there are a lot of teams. I think I mentioned this before. You have the Catenaccio, 5 defenders and 2 deeper line midfielders. So your lower level teams, you've really got to just try and get. I was averaging 60% possession most of the time. So I was a possession dominant team. I knew it was going to be like that. I just needed to get another body up there. So it was that thing of replicating the midfield 3, whilst still having 2 strikers up there. So that's why I started to invert my left fullback. So that became a 4-2-4 wide. The title's got a bit mental, to be honest, but it's the title's got a bit convoluted, to be honest. But it's positive 4-2-4 wide custom currently. So I've tweaked it quite a bit. So that is my inverted wingback on the left on support, and I play that with a deep line playmaker and a central midfielder on attack. So that gets up there, and I do my central midfielder on the left channel in attack because my inverted wingback is coming up to sort of sit in the double pivot. So I'm basically making a box in that scenario. So that is what the tactical journey was. I still have the 4-3-3 as an option, and maybe something else we talk about with a bit more detail is kind of how you tweak based on game state and situation. Maybe it's a 4-3-3 game, maybe it's a 4-2-4 game. Maybe even so, it's a bit like changing subtle things. Like, do you know Bletchley Park? This is relevant. I appreciate this might be this is relevant. Bletchley Park, for international viewers and listeners as well, is a place in Oxfordshire, I think it is. The film The Imitation Game is based on that era in the Second World War where they were trying to crack the Enigma, the German code.
Mm-hmm.
That machine that they used, they tweaked a lot to finally get to the point where they cracked the code. For some reason, in my head, that is what I think about when I think about tweaking my tactics in Football Manager.
I don't think the Enigma code had a deep line playmaker. I might be wrong. I might be wrong.
Look, I'm not sure what's harder, trying to unlock an Italian defense or...
Have you
tried Mazzala on support? Doesn't work.
Yes, so that is the sort of tactical journey that the team has gone through in the sort of 8 or so seasons that we're playing with Fiorentina.
Interesting. Because it's interesting as well that you've got to a 4-3-3. Now, the reason I say that is because my Twitch save's been we're 21 seasons in now. Like I started in the 3rd division of Northern Ireland playing 4-4-2. And that was where I was like, right, I'm going to go there. I'm going to play sort of what I would class as traditional basic football. Like, we'll do the simple things, right? The tactics that I was using evolved into like sort of a 4-5-1 almost, where I had sort of like just nice packed midfield. I was moving into different divisions. Then I went to what could sort of look like a 4-4-1-1, where a shadow striker was behind the striker. That then evolved into this 3-4-3 that I've got going on with what I had with Leeds and Celtic. But the 4-3-3 was a system that I found worked really nicely when I was at Crystal Palace. Now, I wasn't expected to fly straight up and get promoted in the Championship, but I thought the players I've got, we brought a lot of good young players in. So my systems, what I've looked at throughout the course of this save, is my systems have all had something that's quite similar. We talk about philosophy. I'm playing high energy football. Like we're having the football, but we're doing it. We're moving the ball as quick as we can. Okay, so I've got a system here that I've shared with Aaron to put up on the screen, right? And it's a custom vertical tick attacker, which sounds very, very exotic to me, doesn't it?
Very Tony.
Very, very. I don't know what any of those words mean. But balanced mentality, which I think is quite interesting, and pertinent, because I just found that balanced, ironically, is a really, really nice way of playing. The in possession tactics, I'm playing shorter passing, and I'm playing the ball out from the back as well, and we're working the ball into the box, being expressive with a higher tempo. So again, very un-me, Steve. You wouldn't be expecting this sort of little fast-moving triangles player from old TJ here.
Hidden depth, Tony Jameson, a man of hidden depths.
Hidden depth. Plus, of course, we've got a high press on. We're distributing the ball short as well, so we go sort of getting our centre backs to pick the ball up, turn, and then start moving it. It's interesting you're mentioning a deep line playmaker. Now, my guy in the middle of the park, I've got this 3-man midfield here. The ball winning midfielder, of course, is absolutely imperative, as you say, to a 3-man midfield. Getting up and down, doing the hard work, being a destroyer, really putting the hard miles in, and doing the dirty work essentially. The Mazzala I've got sat next to him on the left-hand side is a Mazzala on attack who moves into the channel, or what I believe is called the half space now. Moves into, I've read a book. I haven't. I saw it.
Just the one.
Yeah. So the Mazzala moves into the half space as an inverted winger in front of him cuts inside. So I'm having that sort of like go out. One goes outside, one comes back in. But beneath those two, I'll call them my attacking players, really, my ball winning midfielder and my Mazzala. I have either a deep line playmaker if I'm looking to control the game and I've got someone who can just ping passes left, right, and centre, or if my centre back is better, I'll give him the ball playing role, a ball playing centre back defender, mixed with a half back, so that the half back slots back into the back four when my wing back, which is on my right hand side, my wing back will get forward, and my full back on attack, which is on my left, I had a really pacey left full back, would bomb forward. So that half back would drop in as the centre backs come forward, making a back three essentially. So I always had three defenders when my full backs and wing backs went forward. So if it looked like we could control the game, we'd go DLP. But if we need that extra bit of defensive solidity, we'd go half back. Up front, inverted forward on attack, and then an advanced forward as well. Really sort of like funneling the play up to the top. Really pacey, as tall as we can get them, to be honest. At least 6 foot would be quite nice. Quite physical, and playing narrow as well, because obviously I wanted to play narrow to allow my fullback on the left to get up to the byline, or my wing back on the right to get to halfway, and they were sort of, that would be my width. So that's sort of where I came with my 4-3-3. Aaron, was that a bit more in depth than you thought it would be?
Yes, a lot more. As you was talking though, I was just obviously trying to study the tactic. I'm moving, as some of you guys will see on YouTube as well, I am moving the players as he's describing the players' movements. And that's also actually one way I create tactics. You've got 3 slots here, and I will have a 4-3-3. And then what I will do is kind of, in the second slot then, say if I'm using a wing back on attack, then I'm just going to move that wing back on attack right up forward. And it just kind of gives a sense of the player's movements and then what role I could use in front of him. So if my wing back on attack, for an example, is getting further forward, then it's unlikely I'm going to use a winger operating in the same space. Then I would know maybe an inside forward, inverted winger, or even an advanced playmaker, or wide playmaker, I should say, can operate on that channel, and that allows the wing back to do his job on the right-hand side.
And with those 2 tactics, Aaron, would there be any sort of like tweaks that you'd offer myself or Steve for ways to improve? I mean, obviously we're using a similar setup, but Steve's using it at the top of Serie A, and I'm using it at the sort of the bottom to middle, maybe trying to aim for almost a top half finish in the Premier League. Like, what do you think? I mean, my tactic, I'll be honest, my tactic, and maybe it's my players also as well, we can let goals in because we're playing that high line. We need to have really, really good defenders, particularly when you're up against the top sides. But I mean, I suppose we'll go Steve's first. Where would you tweak Steve's, and then where would you offer a bit of assistance on mine?
So looking at Steve's, we've got the completed version. So in goal, we have a sweeper keeper on support. Left back is the inverted wing back on support. And then we've got a ball playing defender, 2 ball playing defenders, 1 covering for the other. And then on the right-hand side, we've got a fullback on defend. In the middle, we've got a nice mixture of a deep line playmaker on defense. So he's going to play make in the deeper areas. But then on the left side of him, at the moment, we've got an advanced playmaker, but also Steve mentioned about using a central midfielder on attack as well, which again, different situations during the game. Maybe you just need that advanced playmaker, someone that's not going to get further forward, but that's going to create for you, or you just need that runner forward because he does have a DLF on the attack on the left-hand side as well. And at times, a central midfielder can get further forward and beyond him. But also on the left-hand side of the attack, we've got an inside forward on attack. The right-hand side, we've got an inverted winger on attack. And then I mentioned earlier, we've got a deep line forward on attack on the left-hand side. And then lastly, on the right-hand side, we've got an advanced forward on the attack. The only thing here that I would say is the attacking duties. He is Fiorentina, so it might be a sense that he's actually overwhelming the opposition with all these attacking duties, and he's got the players and the quality to do so. But if we're looking at maybe to perfect a tactic, I am slightly looking at that inverted winger on the right-hand side and wondering if he needs to be under attack as well. I would possibly change it to inverted winger on support, and you're kind of adding another creator. But as the deep line playmaker is creating in the deeper areas, and you've got the advanced playmaker and the DLF on the left-hand side, maybe your inverted winger could be that kind of supportive, creative player on the right-hand side, and especially playing those through balls for that advanced forward on the right-hand side as well. So you've got a nice combination with the inside forward on the left-hand side, making runs off the DLF, but then on the right-hand side, possibly you're going to have people running into the same sort of area and being too direct towards goal, where the inverted winger on support can maybe be your calm and be your another creator in front of the opposition's defense.
Changes inverted winger. Sorry. So I have a question on that actually as well. There was a period of time where I had that on the right hand side as a winger, so not inverted.
Okay, yeah.
Inverted. Went out wide. Inverted. I don't know. Would there be any? Because obviously with the fullbacks, there's a very specific reason why one is inverted, why one isn't.
Yeah.
In effect, in possession, with as we described it, one fullback inverts. in possession, that effectively creates a back three. That's why the fullback is on defend.
Yeah.
Is the attack or support role more important than if they go inside or outside, do you think?
I don't think it necessarily. So what I feel Football Manager does, especially if you've got the players to do it, is sometimes players actually read situations quite well. So even an example, you've got an inverted wing back on the left-hand side. It's not 100% of the time he's going to actually invert, especially if the space is on the flank for him to kind of attack. So you've got that sort of, even though you've got a fullback on defend here as well in possession, especially when you're building up, you are going to be looking at a back three. But as your team actually moves further forward, your fullback is not going to be like, you know what, I'm just going to stick here. If there's a space to attack, he will attack it. But you also got underlaps as well, and that's going to dictate your fullback or the wider players' movements.
I was going to ask about that actually, because obviously, as for those listening, you will know about in your tactics screen. You know, you got a tactics on the left hand side of the interface of the game. Just to the left of where all your players are, you've got your in possession, you're in transition, you're out of possession. So we've kind of gone through this before on the tactic that Aaron's looking at for me, but I have slightly more direct passing. I play out of the defence. The two ball-playing defenders would tell you that. I run at defence. That's one specific thing that I've noticed in the data hub when I look at the league. My dribbling numbers are way further ahead than any other team because I run at the defence. Partly because, again, that's a Serie A adaptation. Because if you can't pass through them, you've got to try and dribble through them, basically. So work ball into the box, focus playing through the middle with the underlaps left and right. That's what I have in possession. Would any of those, Aaron, do you think you might change, and why, if so?
I mean, the run at because you mentioned the run at defense is actually getting you a lot of dribbling numbers as well. I'm not sure there's actually anything I would change. Now, there might be scenarios in games, actually, the ball into the box isn't quite popping off as we want to. And there might be times, actually, because you've got two strikers up there as well, there's going to be opportunities for you to actually hit that ball in early, especially the fullback on defend as well. He can get the ball in early on the right-hand side. Maybe the inverted wing back, if you catch him actually out wide, he can then whip the ball in as well early. And you've got two strikers. And as you say, you've got two big strikers in the box. So that could be another way to actually break down the team. But if I do hit early crosses, what I do also like to do is pass the ball into the space as well. So in the wider areas, you kind of get the ball into the path of the players and then they just kind of hit the ball in early. And then you've got mayhem inside the box with those two strikers and hopefully the inverted forward. If the ball's on the right-hand side, hopefully the inverted forward on the left-hand side can make sort of a late run at the far post. And you could potentially have three players inside the box and then some players as your rest defense on the outside of the box in case you lose the ball and you can kind of catch them or stop their counter-attack. But so that is a tweak that I would kind of play with is hit early crosses, especially in a 4-2-4 because I'm using a 4-2-4 as well. And it's something that actually works fairly well, especially when teams like to camp. You mentioned about Serie A. Sometimes teams will look to sit back and just not move out. But that is one way you can kind of catch them off guard. If you do get the ball right in the transition, just hit that early crossing and try and unsettle them a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt, Tony. I've just got one. I hope you guys watching and listening enjoying this. I'm getting a lot out of it, is what I will say. Just, so if you're enjoying it, great, but I'm fine.
He's got a penny subscribed to a YouTube channel right now.
Final question on, again, that because this actually gives me a lot of problems.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side, out of possession, specifically around my defensive fragility.
Yeah.
I go back and forth between. So on the left-hand side, for people listening, you have your out of possession. That brings up your map of where your lines of engagement are.
Yeah.
Whether you have a standard line of engagement in your offensive line, your top end, or defensive line. So I go back and forth between having a high line for both.
Yeah.
High line for my defense, standard line for my attack. So you're bringing the players a bit closer together.
Yeah.
To forcing the opposition outside or not. I find I get hit on the counter quite a lot in vulnerability. So how would I avoid that?
I'm looking more so in transition. So like you said, you get caught on the break. So if you are noticing you're getting caught on the break a lot, that's when I start looking at either player roles or my transition instructions. And one thing I would try is just to remove counter press. So in Football Manager, you have instructions, and I think sometimes some people kind of, to be safe, they want to have an instruction there. So like when possession has been lost, some people might think, you know what, I've got to press either counter press or regroup. It has to be one or the other. When actually just leaving it is sort of fine. You could just leave it. And this is something that I would do, especially in this 4-2-4 as well. Counter press, it could pay off if it works fantastically well. But if you get caught in the break, that's when, especially in a 4-2-4, it can really, really hurt you. So I would actually just try it without counter press. And also your advanced inside forward, on the left-hand side on attack. I mentioned earlier, not everybody has to be on attack. Your inside forward on support still gets further forward. So if you click on that player role, and you can see right now we have inside forward on support, but hard-coded instruction is still get further forward. So that guy is still going to get further forward. He's still going to try and do it, but he's just obviously on attack. He's going to be a lot more direct, running towards goal, making early runs, and just his natural position is just going to be higher on attack than it is on support.
So would you say then both of my forwards should be on support then, potentially?
Well, if you want to tweak, I would say I would tweak one or the other. So if you are getting caught on a break and you notice there's a lot of wrongs going down the left-hand side, then I would possibly just try the inside forward on support and then leave the inverted winger on the attack on the right-hand side.
Oh my God. I could keep, okay, I'll stop now. There might just have to be another Tactics Garage for me separate episode again. But anyway, I'm being greedy, sorry.
No. Can I ask one quick question as well, Aaron, on this one? So if, for example, Steve's getting caught down the left-hand side, okay, now that's the key area is the left-hand side, right?
Yeah.
Now look on his right-hand side, he's got a fullback on defend, so that's why he's not getting hit there.
Yeah.
Plus he's got the deep-lying playmaker on defend on the right-hand side. Is there any scope? I know he's got an inverted wing back coming inside on the left.
Yeah.
But he's coming in to the left where the advanced playmaker is on attack. So he's covering that role there. So he's not actually getting a 3-man midfield the way that I'm visualizing it in my head. He's still only got the 2. So he's getting hit down that side because the inverted forward is off on attack. And again, in my head, I understand that attack means we'll get to the byline. Support means you'll go 2/3 of the pitch up.
Yeah.
So because the inverted forward is already high, the inverted wing back is in the position where the advanced playmaker should be.
Yeah.
But the playmaker is high. Is there any scope for moving the deep line playmaker to the left and then the advanced playmaker to the right? Would that give him a tiny bit more defensive cover?
The one reason why I wouldn't do that is maybe sometimes the inverted wing back might be a bit reluctant to come inside because of the DLP's going to be there. And also with if you are, because he did say earlier, he mentioned about using a central midfielder on attack, but also advanced playmaker, it depends on the situation of the game. So I think with advanced playmaker, it's actually fine because, again, if you do check the player's instructions, there isn't get further forward. So advanced playmaker, the difference between support and attack is more so what he does in possession. So on support, it's going to be spraying passes once he gets the ball. But on attack, is going to be him actually running at defenders and taking more risks, just taking more of a gamble, really, in possession, but not necessarily with his positioning and getting further forward. So I would kind of leave it. But then with central midfielder on attack, then I can 100% see that because he's going to get further forward. The inverted wing back comes inside as well. The inside forward will possibly be where the other 2 strikers are, and it kind of just leaves a big space down that flank. So yeah, if on central midfielder on attack, then I would possibly look, or you could just use a fullback on support and ask him to sit more narrow and cut inside with the ball. And then what happens then, you're actually asking him to look to do that more. So not necessarily as in, look, whenever we get the ball, you do this. But when it comes to added instructions, you're kind of just asking him to increase what. So if you're asking him to run at the defense, it's not necessarily every time you get the ball, run at him, but more so just increase sort of, when the opportunity's there, do it sort of thing. Just nearly knocked my mic over. Got too excited talking about tactics.
Asking for a friend here, Aaron. Where on fullback do you tell them to sit more narrow?
So you can click on the fullback role, and then there's a little edit button that you would press, and then a nice little screen comes up with instructions that you can add more instructions, like get further forward, stay wider, and sit narrower. And then when the player has the ball, you can ask him to cut inside or not. or not. Maybe that's not what you want from the fullback. Maybe it's just that positioning when the team has the ball. You can ask him to sit more narrow.
Oh yeah, it's the little pie chart, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you go in the play instructions, you've got the and the defend will lock it in sometimes. So I've got him on defend, so it's sort of says hold position, but you can stay wide, you can sit narrow.
And another nice little tweak as well, freedom of movement. You can actually ask your fullback now to hold position, which you can't do on an inverted wingback. And Tony actually made a good point. I don't think he necessarily said it, but the inverted wingback naturally will roam from his position. So you can imagine your inverted wing, your inside forward on attack, often looking to leave his position because he wants to attack the goal. But then your inverted wingback is also roaming from his position, which is a hard code instruction, something that he is looking to do all the time.
Just a quick one, just while this episode's on. I hope you're enjoying it, by the way. And if you are enjoying it, please consider hitting that like button. That'd be much appreciated. It shows us who's enjoying the episodes. And also, while you're there, why not consider hitting the subscribe button as well? You'll find out exactly when all the new episodes drop, so you'll never miss a beat. That, of course, pushes us up through the YouTube algorithm. It gets us in front of more eyes. And, of course, the more the podcast grows, the better it's going to be. There's also a little space for a comment, so leave us a comment. We love reading them, and we will, of course, get back to you as well. And speaking about getting back, let's get back to the episode. And I feel like individual instructions, that is another episode in itself. Because again, there are some that are hard coded that you can't override.
Yeah.
There are some where you can get little tweaks and those little sort of what do you call them? The little sort of like you can just those little sort of like percentages that you can improve your chances of winning. So that's awesome to us. That's really, really great analysis on Steve there. Anything again from a personal point of view, Aaron, anything that you would tweak on my 4-3-3 as well? Because as I say, I think I feel as though I've got that balance of attacking duties and support duties, defensive duties, because again, I'm concerned about conceding goals, but but I do think there's still, I feel as though I sometimes get left overexposed a little bit.
So you're playing on the front foot with the high press, the standard defensive line. I feel that kind of pushes up anyway. Like when you're in possession, your defensive line pushes up to kind of move with the team. In transition, again, because it's the same instruction, the same actual tweak that I would make is kind of at first not necessarily use regroup, because then you actually might be conceding space in an area where you can actually take advantage. So not necessarily counter press to try and win the ball back as soon as possible, but as soon as you lose the ball, you're asking your team to regroup and everyone kind of comes back, which gives the opposition that time and space to kind of pick their passes, when at times you actually might be able to, you have the opportunity to kind of rush. You might not necessarily get that high turnover, but you might be able to rush a bad decision from the AI. And that is one thing in transition. Those transitional instructions, what I like to do is kind of, when I'm starting tactics, I kind of just leave it. And then I kind of see what I can do. So I would watch the game, possibly in extended or comprehensive, and I'll kind of notice those transitions. So when we do lose the ball, can my team actually counter press, or do we have to leave it or regroup? Like, do we really, really need to regroup? Regroup for me is one of those, I'm more of a positive player. I like to play it on the front foot sort of thing. And I just find regroup it's risky. I feel there's certain situations to use regroup. It's similar to a low block for me. I wouldn't necessarily look to play my 38 games on low block. I will possibly use a mid block and then find there'll be situations where, okay, we actually need to drop back into a low block, rather than constantly just starting out like that. I feel when you're reactive, you're kind of just reacting to the teams, the AI, and the AI aren't always going to play the same.
I think that's a really, really good point, to be honest, because I think what I'm guilty of, and I know some of our listeners will be as well, so we can all share this together, figuring with the thought process of, if you don't click close down often, and then you have to click regroup. But of course, you can just leave those both blank, and they will naturally just work it out amongst themselves.
But then you also got player roles, right?
So if get behind the ball, you can kind of ourselves difficult to break down.
You can kind of you've got player roles and opposition instructions, so you can actually. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You've got opposition instructions. You've got player roles, so maybe you can actually look to control your press. So trigger press, you can leave it on standard, but then you can use certain player roles like pressing forward, who's just going to look to press, or a ball winning midfielder who's going to look to press. And then in games as well, if you notice a okay, this player, this deep line playmaker, he's going to be a problem for us. And you could just go into opposition instructions and then ask him or ask your team to always press that player when he has the ball. And to do so, in the tactics screen, you've got overview on the top. You've got player, set pieces, captains, match plans, and opposition instructions. You can either set it so you can look to set it at all times. So your defensive system might be actually whenever the opposition wingers have the ball, I just want to always press those wingers, and you can just sort of go to trigger press and press always, or you can just press never. You've got 2 options, never, always, or you could just leave it. So you've got actually 3 options. And that is one way also as well. If you don't want everyone to press, you don't want to play that relentless pressing game, but you still want to press certain players, opposition instructions is a very, very good way to go.
Excellent. And I think that is something we will follow up on in future episodes. So I suppose we can officially say the Tactics Garage is back open. Hope you've enjoyed that. Aaron's very, very happy. He's delighted. Look how proud he is. So I suppose we've got to say, obviously, with that in mind, we've shared our tactics with you. If you've got a tactic that you'd like us to have a little look at, you can send us a picture, probably via Twitter or something, or on the social medias or email. Send us a picture, but most importantly, tell us what is wrong with it. And then, of course, we could potentially look to diagnose it for you and discuss it on a future episode. As we say, send us the tactics via Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. It's the FM Show Pod. You can leave a comment on YouTube as well. Of course, please do that. And maybe even put it in the Discord. We've got a little tactics area in the Discord. Put it in there. Or as we say, send it to us via email, thefmshowpod@gmail.com. That was episode 5 of the FM Show, hosted by me, Tony Jameson. My co-host was Aaron Falloon, aka RDF Tactics. Our producer is producer Steve. Take care, stay safe. We'll see you soon.